Activated Starseed of Gaia. The Arcturian field observers have already logged what is moving through your auric body right now, and what they found is not what you've been telling yourself. I am Velantha, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, transmitting now on behalf of the Arcturian field observers. What you are about to receive was authorized by them and is being delivered through me. By the end of this transmission, you will understand exactly what is happening to you now, why others respond to you the way they do, and what the Arcturian field observers have already mapped about the rare configuration you are carrying. But here is the first revelation. The ability that shocks people when they encounter you is not something you developed. It was written into your field before your incarnation began, and you have been operating it without ever knowing its name. The algorithm did not create this moment. It only delivered it. Your field brought you here because the recognition was already overdue. This is a direct Arcturian field recognition. The Arcturian field observers have been tracking a specific subset of starseeds on Gaia who carry an output frequency so precise, so quietly overwhelming, that the humans around them register it before a single word is spoken. You feel it in their pause. You see it in the shift behind their eyes. People stop. People stare. People cannot always explain why they trusted you instantly, why they felt seen by you without asking to be, why your presence alone changed the temperature of a room. That is not coincidence. That is a living signal that has been active in you for longer than this lifetime. Look at their eyes, Starseed of Gaia. The Arcturian field observers say those eyes are not reacting to your personality. They are reacting to your personality. They are reacting to your field. This is not just information. It is a live transmission for those already inside the recognition. Like this transmission to signal to your star family that the field recognition has landed. Comment 111 if you have always felt that your presence affects people in ways you cannot fully explain. Subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it. Share this transmission with someone whose eyes go quiet the moment they enter a room. This is not content. This is a code. And the part of you that recognized it the moment it began is the part Velantha is speaking to now. You are not here by accident. You are guided here because the signal is already active. And now that the recognition has landed, something else begins, because there is a difference between feeling it and understanding it. And the Arcturian field observers did not send this transmission only for you to feel seen. They sent it because what is happening inside your field right now has reached a threshold that requires naming. Not comfort, not reassurance. Naming, precise, structural, diagnostic naming of a process that has already been underway far longer than the disruption you have been trying to explain to yourself. You have been calling it something else. Stress maybe, or burnout, or a phase. You have been telling yourself that the disorientation will pass, that the strange distance you feel from your own life is temporary, that the version of you who knew exactly where they were going will return once circumstances settle. The Arcturian field observers want you to stop waiting for that, not because that version of you is gone, but because that version was operating on a line that your field has already abandoned. That line did not become impassable overnight. It became incompatible gradually, imperceptibly in the way that a current reroutes underground long before the surface above it begins to shift. You felt the first tremors and called them moods. You felt the destabilization and called it exhaustion. And the Arcturian field observers watched this misreading accumulate, knowing the moment would come when the gap between what you were experiencing and what you were telling yourself about it could no longer be sustained. That moment is now. This is what was found when your auric body was logged. You are not in the middle of a crisis. You are in the middle of a correction. And the difference between those two interpretations will determine whether you spend the next several months fighting what is happening to you or finally beginning to read it. A crisis is something that arrives from outside and demands a response. A correction is something that originates from within the field itself. Organized, purposeful, operating according to a logic your conscious mind was never given access to, because access was not the point. Completion was. And completions of this kind do not require your understanding in order to proceed. They require only that you stop generating interference by misidentifying their symptoms. What the Arcturian field observers track is not your emotions in isolation. They track the coherence between your frequency output and the structural architecture your life has been built upon. And what they observed in your field is a fracture. Not a fracture of weakness, a fracture of incompatibility. Your frequency has been advancing. Your architecture has not. And when that gap becomes wide enough, the field begins to reject the old structure from the inside. Not loudly, not all at once, quietly, systematically, in ways that feel like personal failure but are actually field correction. Think of it this way. A vessel built to carry one grade of current does not shatter the moment a higher charge begins moving through it. It strains first, it develops heat at the junctions, it begins to behave erratically at the points where the old wiring meets the new load. That is what you have been experiencing, not malfunction, misfit. The architecture was built for a version of your frequency that no longer exists. This is why your sleep has changed. Not because something is wrong with your body, but because your body is the first instrument to register when a field has entered repositioning. The hours you used to move through with ease now feel heavier, stranger, filled with a kind of pressure that has no clear source. You wake in the night not from anxiety about specific things, but from a nameless interior alertness, as though some part of you is monitoring a process the rest of you cannot yet perceive. That is not insomnia. That is a field in active recalibration running its correction work in the hours when your conscious resistance is lowest. The body becomes the site of the work precisely because it cannot argue with it. It cannot rationalize it away or reframe it into something more comfortable. It simply registers, and the registration comes as weight, as strange heat, as a pressure behind the sternum that appears without event and dissolves without explanation. Your body is not malfunctioning, it is reporting. This is why your thoughts have been fragmenting, not because you are losing clarity, but because the old cognitive architecture, the one built to navigate a life your field is already leaving, no longer has sufficient signal to sustain itself. Fragmentation is what happens when a signal loses compatibility with the structure it has been running through. The thoughts do not complete their loops the way they used to. You begin a line of reasoning and find it dissolving before it reaches a conclusion. You reach for certainty about what you want, what you believe, what direction makes sense, and find the reaching itself destabilized, as though the ground beneath the thought has become uncertain. It is not breakdown. It is the visible noise of a frequency that has outpaced its container. The clarity you are looking for is not missing. It belongs to the next architecture, not the current one. And it will not arrive until the transition is further along. This is why things that used to anger you have stopped working. The routines, the relationships, the identities, the narratives about who you are and where you are going, they have been losing their grip not because you have failed them, but because your field has stopped sending current through them. An anchor only holds if the field around it remains compatible. When the field changes, the anchor does not suddenly become wrong. It simply becomes neutral, inert, no longer capable of providing what it once did. You may return to the things that used to ground you, the places, the practices, the people, the ways of spending a morning, and find them present in every external detail and yet emptied of whatever quality made them feel like yours. That emptiness is not ingratitude. It is not spiritual bypassing or numbness or failure to appreciate what you have. It is the perceptual signature of a field that has already vacated a frequency range, while the body and mind are still standing in the space it occupied. And the grief of that is real, but the Arcturian field observers name it for what it is. Not loss, but the visible surface of a field moving beyond a frequency range it can no longer inhabit. What you are feeling right now is not ordinary recognition. It is the moment your field confirms what you have always suspected, that your origin was never only human, and that what has been waking in you has a name, a structure, and a source older than this lifetime. If this transmission has put language around something you have been carrying in silence, the master Arcturian DNA decoder was created for precisely this threshold. It is not another layer of explanation. It is the guided key to decode and awaken the Arcturian strand that the field observers have already confirmed is active in you. This is where recognition becomes activation, where knowing becomes embodied. The link is in the first pinned comment, but it will not remain accessible indefinitely. Now let the Arcturian field observers name what is happening at the level of pattern, because this is where the diagnosis deepens. The first pattern they observe in your field is the sudden interruption of momentum. You were moving in a direction. You had orientation, however imperfect, and then something stopped. Not something outside you, but something inside the machinery of your forward movement. Decisions that once came with relative ease now feel genuinely impossible, not because you lack intelligence or will, but because the trajectory your decisions were building toward is no longer readable by your field. Your field has already registered that the destination on the old route is incompatible with where your frequency is being pulled, and so the engine of momentum stalls, not in failure, but in refusal. There is a precision to this refusal that is easy to miss when you are inside it. It does not feel like wisdom. It feels like paralysis. It feels like the inability to do the simplest thing, to choose, to commit, to take the next logical step. But what is actually occurring is that your field has removed its signal from a trajectory it has already assessed as terminal. The engine is not broken. It is idle because the road ahead, though it still appears on the map, no longer exists at the frequency your field is now operating from. This is the first visible sign of what the Arcturian field observers call timeline rupture. The old line has not simply become difficult. It has become structurally incoherent at the frequency level. And your field knows this before your mind does. The second pattern is the withdrawal of your output signal from people and environments that once received it easily. You have noticed this. The conversations that used to feel alive now feel hollow. The spaces you used to inhabit with comfort now feel like they belong to someone you are no longer certain you are. The people who once made sense to your field now trigger a quiet, sourceless resistance. Not anger, not judgment, but a kind of frequency incompatibility that makes sustained intimacy exhausting in a way you cannot justify with logic. You find yourself sitting across from someone you have known for years, and feeling an invisible distance that no conversation can fully close. You find yourself in rooms that once felt like home and now feel like exhibition spaces, familiar in their arrangement but evacuated of the resonance that made them meaningful. The Arcturian field observers identify this as the field's natural retraction from environments running on a lower or mismatched output range. Your signal is not dimming, it is pulling inward as a signal does when it is preparing to reconfigure its transmission architecture. What you are interpreting as disconnection or social withdrawal is the field's intelligence at work, separating the frequency from context it can no longer sustain without degrading its own coherence. The third pattern is the emergence of a strange inner stillness beneath the surface chaos. Even in the heaviest moments of disorientation, there are flashes, brief and sometimes unsettling, of a quiet that does not feel like peace exactly, but feels like proximity to something real. These moments do not last. They appear between the noise. They arrive in the space between one anxious thought and the next. In the sudden, inexplicable clarity that appears at 3 a.m, in the moment just before the mind reasserts its inventory of concerns. They feel like a signal breaking through interference, giving you just enough contact with what is beneath the disruption to prevent total collapse. You may have dismissed these moments as dissociation or random calm. You may have reached for them and found them impossible to sustain. That inability to hold them is not a failure of spiritual attainment. It is simply the nature of a signal that is not yet stable in the new architecture. Arriving in pulses rather than as a continuous stream, the Arcturian field observers identify these as confirmation pulses, brief outputs from the corrected field making contact with the conscious surface to signal that the process is coherent, that the chaos has architecture, that the intelligence running the correction has not lost the thread. Do not dismiss these moments as wishful thinking. They are field reports arriving in real time. The fourth pattern is the collapse of old identity narratives that used to give your experience shape. You knew who you were in relation to your work, your relationships, your history, your future. These narratives were not merely beliefs. They were structural components of the energetic architecture your field had been operating within. They were the load-bearing stories, the ones that explained why you were here, what you were building, who you were becoming, and how the pieces of your experience connected into a coherent whole. And now they are softening, losing their edges, becoming porous in ways that feel destabilizing, but are actually necessary. The Arcturian field observers describe this phase as identity dissolution preceding field reorientation. The self does not dissolve. The architecture that housed a previous version of the self loses coherence because the frequency it was built to contain has already moved beyond it. What feels like not knowing who you are is not an existential crisis in the ordinary sense. It is the gap between a field that is already repositioned and a conscious self still looking for recognition in structures that no longer carry its signal. The self that is emerging does not yet have a story. It has only a frequency. And the frequency is more real than any story that preceded it. The fifth pattern is what the Arcturian field observers call the pressure of unprocessed frequency. This manifests as a physical and energetic heaviness that is not tiredness in the conventional sense. It is the weight of a frequency that has nowhere to route because the old channels have become blocked or incompatible. You feel it in your chest, in your jaw, behind your eyes, in the weight of your limbs at the end of a day that did not even demand much from you physically. You feel it as a dull, sourceless fatigue that sleep does not fully resolve. You feel it as a fullness without content, as though something is pressing outward from inside the body with no available exit. This is not depression, though it resembles its surface. It is the energetic signature of a field running correction protocols through a body that has not yet been informed of what is changing. The body carries the load of a reconfiguration it was not briefed on, and the pressure is the accumulation of frequency that has advanced past its old routing without yet finding its new channels. The Arcturian field observers note this pressure as one of the clearest diagnostic indicators that a rare protocol has been activated, one that does not simply adjust the frequency at the edges, but reconfigures the central architecture through which it flows. The sixth pattern is the repeated confrontation with endings that feel premature. Relationships, phases, chapters, opportunities that seem to close before they feel complete. Not through dramatic rupture necessarily, but through a quiet, inexorable withdrawal of life and meaning that leaves you holding a form that no longer contains what made it vital. You may have tried to revive these structures. You may have invested effort and tension, renewed commitment, and found that the investment did not restore the current. That is not because you failed to try hard enough. It is because the current itself had already been rerouted. The Arcturian field observers name this mechanism clearly. It is the field's removal of structures that have reached their frequency ceiling. When a structure, whether a relationship, a role, a belief, or a way of being in the world, can no longer expand to accommodate the next register of your output, the field begins its withdrawal of investment from that structure. The ending arrives not because the thing failed, but because the frequency it was built to hold has exceeded its capacity. The grief is legitimate. The meaning is not failure. It is the field clearing the load-bearing walls of an architecture that will no longer stand at the next frequency level. And now the final revelation. Everything the Arcturian field observers have logged, mapped, and named in your field points to a single coherent truth that most of you have been too close to the disruption to see clearly. This is not collapse for its own sake. This is not random deterioration. This is not punishment for having made the wrong choices, or carried the wrong beliefs, or failed to sustain the right momentum. This is forced incompatibility with a line your frequency has already outgrown, and the correction began before you had language for it. It began in the subtle dissatisfactions you could not name. It began in the dreams that left residue on your waking hours. It began in the moments when you looked at your own life from the inside and felt, beneath all the evidence of a functioning existence, that something essential was missing. Not because it had been taken, but because it had not yet arrived. Those were not signs of ingratitude or spiritual immaturity. They were the first readable signals of a field that had already begun its departure from a frequency range it had exhausted. What left your life was not taken. It became structurally incompatible before it disappeared. What you are grieving was not destroyed. It reached its frequency ceiling and became neutral. What feels like inner disorder is not the evidence of a self coming apart. It is the first readable consequence of a field that has stopped obeying its old patterning and has begun, however disruptively, however uncomfortably, to operate at the next register. The Arcturian field observers do not look at your current phase and see ruin. They see a field in active correction. They see the visible noise of a frequency advancing past the architecture built to contain it. They see a Starseed of Gaia who has been carrying a living signal since before this incarnation began, and who is now at the threshold where that signal can no longer be contained by the life structure that preceded it. You are not going insane. You are not failing in any way the word failure meaningfully applies. You are not abandoned by your path. You are repositioned by your field. Repeat this if it is true for you. What is changing in me is not random. Say it as recognition, not as hope. Say it as recognition, not as hope. Say it as diagnosis. Because that is what it is. The process started before you had words for it. And now you have words for it. And that is not a small thing, because a field that can be named can begin to be navigated. And a correction that can be read can begin to be received instead of resisted. The naming does not stop the process. Nothing stops the process. Nothing stops the process. But the naming changes your relationship to it. From a witness who is overwhelmed by what they cannot interpret to one who can begin, however slowly, to orient inside it. That orientation is not comfort. It is something more durable than comfort. It is precision, and precision, held steady inside a reconfiguration of this magnitude, is what allows a field to complete its correction without the additional damage of a self at war with its own reorganization. The Arcturian field observers did not log your auric body to frighten you. They logged it because your field reached the threshold where recognition is no longer optional, where continuing to misread the correction as personal failure would cost you the very orientation you need to move through it clearly. This transmission was not delivered to give you comfort. It was delivered to give you precision, and precision, in a field undergoing repositioning, is the most stabilizing force available. You are inside a process that has structure. You are being corrected, not condemned. You are being repositioned, not abandoned. And the signal that brought you to this transmission is the same signal that has been active in your field since before this lifetime began. Before you scroll, leave one sign in the comments that this process has already touched your life. It could be your sleep, your thoughts, your body, your relationships, or the strange sense that reality no longer feels the same. Name it clearly. If this transmission recognized something you have been carrying in silence, share it with someone who is living through a shift they cannot explain. And if you are ready to understand the process instead of fearing it, subscribe to Arcturian Council Whispers. You are not watching this by accident. You are recognizing a process already in motion. And this is only the beginning.